engines, they'd have to be towed there, and towing becomes expensive. He shook his head, gloomily drank from the snifter. Money sure can make people heartless. It's a 5,000-year-old trend, Dave said. Who has the money this time? Name of Le Van Min, Cecil said. A Vietnamese importer. Lives here. Residency permit. He's owned the place for years. Now developers want to buy it, gentrify it, build condos all around, fancy restaurants and shops. The Old Fleet boaties are protesting. The protest was a news story, really, but they're poor. They can't win. Dave said, they probably couldn't win if they were rich. He snuffed his cigarette, knocked back the rest of his scotch, set down the glass. These days, you see something you want, factory, fast food outlet, supermarket chain, and you've got the money, you get it, regardless of how the owner feels. It's called a hostile takeover. He pushed up off the couch. Don't ask me to explain it. I don't guess Le minds selling, Cecil said. He just owns it. I don't think it means anything to him, just another investment. Don't suppose he ever saw it. Both folks claim he only just heard there were people living there. Dave winced and rubbed the back of his neck. Dave, the demon typist, is tired, he said. Let's go to bed, Cecil said. Dave walked in from the brick courtyard, the taste of coffee and blueberry muffins lingering in his mouth. He had just seen Cecil off to work in his flame-painted, blue-carpeted van. It was September. Staffers were taking late vacations. Cecil was working double shifts this week. Dave ought to have factored that into his retirement plans. He had counted on Cecil's company during the days. Living alone, he had never liked. He lit a cigarette and leaned in the doorway, studying the room. Books had stacked up on the floor against the pine plank walls. Books cluttered the brick surround of the fireplace, the desk and bar at the far end of the long room, the gold oak mission-style library table that stood behind the couch. He had lived for years in this strange place on Horseshoe Canyon Trail. The two main buildings had started as stables, and in damp weather still smelled faintly of horse. But though Amanda, his very young stepmother, had put up open sleeping lofts here, had modernized the cook shack, installed clear-story windows, and split-leveled the floor of the front building, Dave himself hadn't marked the place much. He'd been too busy. He had bought Navajo rugs for this building, some Mexican pottery pieces for the front building, but he'd never hung any pictures, and he liked pictures. He liked tall bookcases, too, but the only ones here he'd slapped back up by the desk when he'd first moved in. Well, now he wasn't busy anymore, was he? He had time to build all the bookshelves he wanted. This morning, while Cecil showered, David signed, sealed, and stamped the letters, bundled them with a rubber band, and walked them out to the roadside box for the mailman to take away in his red, white, and blue Jeep. Dave had made it official. The rest of his life was his own. And the first days of it, he was going to give to bookshelves and pictures. Those watercolors by Larry Johns he'd bought last year. Nice, loose, sure-handed sketches of the surf rocks dunes around the Hansen beach house John shared with Tom Owens. Owens was an architect whose life Dave had saved a couple of times. The last time, because he'd put it in jeopardy. He smiled grimly to himself, walked down the room, and stood, head tilted, sizing up the long, knotty pine walls that flanked the fireplace. He liked the notion of bookshelves over, under, and around the windows. He turned, decided the pictures would look happiest lined up along the wall under the north sleeping loft. There was better height for the shelves in the fireplace wall. How many shelves? He had bought the lumber when he bought the place. It lay under blue plastic sheets sheltered by a vine-grown arbor at the back of the property. If termites and dry rot hadn't eaten it, there were probably enough board feet there. Dave needed a yardstick. Full of cheerful purpose, he started for the cook shack, where the tools were kept, and stopped. A young woman stood in the doorway. He blinked at her. She carried a case, but he didn't think there was anything for sale in it. She was freckle-faced and sandy-haired, and wore a shirt-maker dress of crisp oyster-white twill with a floppy green bow at the throat. Her green-rimmed glasses were owlish, and she was doing her best to look prim and businesslike. He took her for a lawyer. "Mr. Brandstetter," she said. "I'm Tracy Davis. Maybe you remember me. I used to work for Mr. Greenglass." She held out a business card. He went to her and took it, patted his shirt pocket, and remembered he'd left his reading glasses with the morning paper in the cook shack. Maybe the way he squinted at the card told her he couldn't read it. "Public defender," she said. "San Pedro."